All right. Time August 29th, 2005. Now, that day doesn't ring a bell to many, but to people like me, that day does carry a special significance. Now, this seemingly random day in August was the day that Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, Louisiana. The storm devastated the Gulf Coast and left many people like myself searching and scrambling to find a new home. Now, when you're searching and scrambling to find a new home, you're sort of displaced, and being displaced puts you in a different sort of headspace. You have nothing to call your own and no place to call home. Think about that for just a moment. Now, New Orleans has a very rich and long culinary history, with many of the contributions being made by the black community, sometimes in the faces of extreme adversity, whether it be slavery, racism, or the most damaging natural disaster to ever hit the United States. Now, plenty of people like myself, when we were displaced, are constantly searching for a place to call home and a new place to call themselves home. I personally believe that coffee was put into my life as the vehicle to bring me closer to the place that I call home and closer to the people that I call home in the city of New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, there's an unrecognized barista that I would like everybody here to know about, a barista by the name of Rose Nico. Now, Rose Nico is a barista slash shop owner from New Orleans who was born into slavery. Now, it is stated that she owned the first coffee stall in the historical French market, and it is stated that her Cafe Noir and Cafe au lait beverages were some of the best beverages in town at that point in time. Old Rose, as she was effectively known, was able to purchase her freedom from slavery using funds from the coffee shop, from the coffee stand. She was definitely a barista of a different type of magnitude, doing things that I don't think many people today could potentially fathom. Having to pretty much save any money from your coffee stand in order to purchase your freedom. Now, the mid 1800s were a far different time, being as there was very little information on coffee and very little information on the origin or process of that particular coffee. So today, I'll be attempting to reconstruct that sort of experience for you today. First, we'll be serving your milk beverage, and within that milk beverage, I'll be giving you the coffee information after. Now, as far as basic coffee information, for all of my drinks, I'll be using the same espresso recipe of 19.5 grams in, over a grand total of 19 seconds for a full yield of 42 grams of coffee. You're welcome to enjoy your milk beverage as soon as I present it to you. Now, for just a little bit of information on the milk beverage, we did decide to use a freeze distilled milk, extracted to 50% in order to add additional sweetness and creaminess. And then we took that 50% extract and diluted it with a full whole milk as well. Now, with the freeze distilled milk, we used a lactose-free option because myself and many people like myself are unable to properly digest a full fat, full sugar lactose milk. Something that's been done in order to make training for myself easier and also consuming the beverage for people helping me out a little bit easier. All right, and there you go. You may enjoy.
Give it up for the first round of milk beverages.
Now, where a lot of American coffee history can be traced back to New Orleans, a lot of coffee history can be traced back to Ethiopia. Ethiopia being considered the birthplace of coffee. The coffee that I'm using today was grown by a woman by the name of Asinakach Tiganya Retta. She's one of the only people in Ethiopia to hold the titles of exporter, miller, and coffee farmer. This particular coffee is a natural roast from the JARC varietal. That's going to stand for the Jima Agricultural Research Center. It's going to be varietal number 74158. Once again, for my espresso beverages, I'll be serving a recipe of 19.2 grams in over a time period of 20 seconds for a grand total of 42 grams of coffee. Now, the coffee that I'm giving you today will give you taste notes of apricot, peach, mandarin, and it'll give you a long, dry Chardonnay finish. Now, when the espresso is served to you, I ask you to stir the espresso back and judge cremas first, and then stir the espresso back and forth 10 times, and then go ahead and enjoy. All right, and there you go.
Give it up for the espresso round.
And we'll top you off with some water real quick. Now, the producer of this coffee ended up leaving Ethiopia for a few years in order to study agriculture, taking that time to study agriculture and returning home in order to grow coffee near where she was raised. With that being said, coffee is one of the things that has brought me closer to the place that I call home as well. Now, New Orleans does carry a very significant history in the cocktail scene as well. So, drawing inspiration from the whiskey sour, I'll be making you my signature beverage. Now, the whiskey sour typically uses egg white, lemon juice, and whiskey in order to achieve these flavors. Today, I'll be using 50 grams of a red bean based aguafaba instead of egg white. We'll go ahead and add 20 grams of a strawberry juice to that. We'll add 22 grams of a simple syrup. We'll add 10 grams of a lemon juice. 4 grams of a living strawberry grape Riesling vinegar. And at the beginning of my routine, I hyper chilled 90 grams of espresso in order to use for the recipe. We'll take all of these components and dry shake together. We will strain all of these ingredients, and then we'll give a spritz of rose water for aromatics and for a unique homage to Rose Nico and her endeavors as a barista. Judges, you may enjoy once I place this on the table. There you go. There you go. And there you go. Now, I do believe that coffee was placed in my life for a specific reason. Coffee's been placed into my life as the vehicle in order to bring me closer to the place that I call home and the people that I love in New Orleans. Now, coffee and service are one of the things that the city is very good at. And I do believe, being born and raised there, that coffee is my legacy and it is my birthright. I do believe coffee is something that I am born to be good at, and I can stay in coffee and make a home out of coffee in the coffee industry. Once again, I want to reiterate that coffee was not placed into my life by chance, but definitely as a vehicle to bring me closer to the things that I love in life. Hope you enjoyed this service today. Hope you enjoyed all of your beverages today, and that'll be time.
Give it up for Philip White Jackson from Little Lunch Coffee in Los Angeles, California. It was a very nice routine. It was very you really made something very narratively concise in such a short amount of time. Kind of what made you kind of choose that path into bringing those little elements and what you wanted to really tell out of that story?
Just oddly enough, on Twitter. I was on Twitter one day, and it was the beginning of Black History Month. One of my friends had made a bunch of posts about people that we don't know in coffee that are Black, such as the gentleman who was able to make vanilla able to be grown worldwide, such as the barista that I mentioned, Rose Nico, who was able to effectively purchase her slavery through making coffee. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment, something that shouldn't have to be done, but just seeing that post and finding those people and finding how close those people are to the place that I was born, I felt like it was something that only made sense to highlight and talk about.
I feel like I'm glad to have heard that story and for you to have shared it on this stage as well. I think the way you kind of went through this presentation with your decisive movements and everything was really just very thoughtful and really made me feel like I can focus in on what you're saying, and also just to get such a lovely presentation out of it as well. And with such a lovely audience backing you up, is there anyone out there that you would like to thank?
As always, we will thank Chelsea She's definitely made a lot of this able to happen. Glitter Cat as well for providing a lot of the resources and just information to compete and just getting my name out there for people to help me compete. Um, Once again, we'll thank my girlfriend because she's been putting up with getting all of this together and me doing everything that it needs to happen for this to happen and the crazy practice hours. And then Little Lunch Coffee for just providing me the space and time and extra time that I need in order to practice. One last special shout out to Black Rabbit Espresso for letting me use their facilities down in Hawthorne and just get everything going and be able to access their facilities at crazy hours when I just needed to be able to after work.
Well, as a former employee of Black Rabbit, I do love hearing that. So always happy to help and really happy to have you here and like be able to present such a great story. Give it up once again, Philip White Jackson, Little Lunch Coffee.